there's so much beauty to be found in books as well, and sometimes it's really hard to navigate your way through a thick novel like that with just so many characters, but the rewards once you're finished are there because you've lived so many lives and you have that much more experience inside of your soul. So I cannot recommend this book by Amanda Dykes enough. Ladies, gentlemen, everyone in between, welcome back to another episode of my book review channel. Today, we're reviewing Whose Waves These Are by Amanda Dykes. I have been in search for some sort of spiritual content, books about reincarnation, just about spirituality in general, fiction related, because I am in the process of writing the 5th draft of a very spiritual novel of my own titled Where Two Rivers Meet. This is the one I'm hoping to garner an agent for, and as a result of trying to really take my career as a writer seriously, I just want to dive into the world of these spiritual books and see what other authors are doing. And I got to admit, I was blessed when I stumbled upon this one. I just went to Barnes & Noble here in Augusta, Maine, and I asked the cashier, the employee, a little bit of guidance. They led me over to a shelf that I never would have even considered going to before, but it was in the religious section. I didn't realize the religion section actually had fiction titles in there as well. And, you know, it was kind of cool. They had, like, The Shack in there, and I've read that book. I reviewed it on this channel. I thought it was wonderful. And I also saw a whole bunch of other titles that didn't really have anything to do with serious Bible talk like I would have thought, you know. They had books like The Celestine Prophecy in there, and other books like that, which were books I just really enjoyed and didn't really shove God down your throat so much. It was just spiritual. So I was just breezing through, and I'd never even heard of Amanda Dykes, but I liked what I saw. That was on the shelf just like that, and I pulled it out, read the back, and I was sold, and I brought it home, and I was absolutely blown away by the talent Amanda Dykes showed in this book. So bear with me one moment. We'll go through my quick little terrible intro, but I'm trying here. And I'll give you a brief overview of what this fantastic surprise novel was all about. Here we go! Okay, so let's dive right into what this awesome book by Amanda Dykes was all about, shall we? So it goes back and forth between two characters. It starts off with this character named Robert Bliss. So this is World War II era where it originally takes place. So it goes from World War II until present day, back and forth between these two characters. One of them is Robert Bliss. And then in present day, we have his his grandniece, because he's her uncle. Her name is Annie. So it starts off with Robert, and his brother ends up getting a draft letter, so he got drafted into World War II. That's where the whole book starts. And then as we're going through this whole series is how we're introduced to these characters in the past, these characters who, in turn, you know, fell in love, and life did their thing, created children who then had other children, and that's how we're introduced kind of to Annie. Annie decided to move away from the Maine coast where this book takes place. Robert Bliss lives on the Maine coast, which is also a dear place to my heart. I love Maine. And she's reliving this wonderful summer that she spent during her childhood with her uncle. Now, she doesn't have much of a relationship with him anymore since she moved away, but they still do communicate back and forth a little bit through these little letters in this, here I think we call it Uncle Henry's little buy and sell magazine they sell in the local stores here. They kind of communicate through that. It's really interesting the way Amanda Dykes does it. But Robert gets into a little bit of a health crisis, and Annie is forced to come back here and kind of try to figure things out. And she wants to be here when he comes to, should he come to, so she can really rekindle what she had with him, because it was a precious summer to her. As the story progresses, we're meeting all these wonderful characters, and we're learning about the backstory of where Robert and her life are gonna merge again. What happened to her parents? What happened to Robert's family, like his brother, who happened to be Annie's? It's a tough thing to explain, but it was literary fiction at its finest because it involves all these characters, and every single character has a need. Every single character has an obstacle in their way of obtaining these needs. And to me, that's what literary fiction is. It's not just focused on one character, it's focused on many. And it was just so precious. And the whole premise of the story is based around, so Robert's brother ends up dying. And in his grief, he releases this poem to the local paper, An Ansel by the Sea, Maine, which ends up getting national attention. And over the decades, it keeps getting re-released, 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 because war is never ending. Where he's asking people to send him a rock in the memory of their lost loved ones who were killed in war. So he wants to build a big memorial on one of the islands in the Maine coast. And it's this big lighthouse built of stones, each one sent all over the world by people who have died in war. And it was just an absolutely beautiful story because it just revolves around hope and loss, and life continuing even after all this loss. And it's the hardest thing to explain because it was just so beautifully done, and there were so many characters, and every single one of them had their own beautiful story behind them. And I really, really wish I could convince more people to read this book or books like this. Now, though I don't believe my writing is as beautiful as Amanda Dykes, I was still inspired to kind of go back through a couple of my scenes and try to write with the heart that she wrote into some of her scenes. And I think as a result of reading this book, I became a better writer, and maybe my book, Where Two Rivers Meet, will become a better book as a result of reading this book. So if you're a writer, I cannot stress enough, read, read, read. Just read often, read widely. It'll help you. And if you're just a reader, then again, just try to find books that inspire, not just the thriller books and the fun pulp fiction books or the sloppy horrors. There's so much beauty to be found in books as well, and sometimes it's really hard to navigate your way through a thick novel like that with just so many characters, but the rewards once you're finished are there because you've lived so many lives and you have that much more experience inside of your soul. So I cannot recommend this book by Amanda Dykes enough. Please pick up a copy, support writers like her too. It's not always about that quick commercial fiction fix, and writers like her really, really need to be celebrated. And I just like to see her continue with her career and continue to bless us with books that are as amazing as Whose Waves These Are. So with that said, thank you so much for tuning into my channel. Consider subscribing. Consider giving me a little bit of love by leaving a comment below, helping boost the algorithms, and give us a like, okay? We'll talk to you next time. I love you guys. Peace.